My God, that's a lot of milk, Jeremy.
Man, I
Not
love
a milk guy.
Oh, really?
No, not a milk.
I love
Riveting start to our show here on Twitch.
Now this goes up on YouTube. It's not only like people can see the video on demand, like I'm uploading this stuff to YouTube.
More comment sections that I will avoid vigorously.
Like it's on Fightful Scraps, so like it doesn't get as much stuff as the main play, but we're trying to boost the Fightful Scraps stuff a little bit more.
I think it makes sense actually to have that as like a vault almost for the Twitch stuff, because people do miss it and some people just don't know it exists, so it's pretty cool. Because it seems like we have like around 500 people that watch on demand or whatever, and they know what's going on with the Twitch. But as you know, we've had a whole lot more than that on the A show. So it's it's just about getting awareness out there. Scrap should help with that.
Yeah, and Kyler's done a great job with Scraps, and I wanted to put the Twitch stuff in there because the VOD gets deleted after a certain amount of days. I should have started doing this from the start, but I didn't. But the VOD gets deleted after a certain amount of days, so if at least it lives on Scraps, people can hopefully find the Twitch through that. And I've asked Kyler to update some stuff so people can start finding the Twitch through YouTube, which is good.
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, I think it's definitely good that something like the draft lives as long as it, as long as it should. That was a tremendous hour and a half of our time. So,
Yes.
what's the feedback you've got on that, Jeremy? Before we get started here with what we're doing today, I appreciate the folks already in the chat. But what was your feedback on the draft? Because a pal of ours, the modest man, he was claiming that you had won this draft. And Bob and I liked his tweet, not knowing that's what he claimed. And then Bob was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yes, he said we won. That's the only feedback I've seen, is that we won. So
Oh, there you go.
we won.
It goes without saying.
So I disagree with that.
I haven't yet. I wanted to. I said I was going to do it the next day, but I haven't yet rewatched the draft. But let me tell you, man, Jack Crosby in that thing was a masterful, like just an absolute decline and a descent into madness.
Oh man, Jack was something. Oh, you having trouble hearing me? Hold on. I think I probably know why. My fault, Jaden. It's probably through it's through my webcam. That's right.
Yeah, Jack was tremendous. He just, he hadn't prepared. God bless him. He told us that much, but it was still funny. I appreciate JR, a little bit shorter. Got some of the pals in here that have contributed matches for today, which is very cool.
All right. Everybody hear me better now, I assume, hopefully?
Say Al Horford, Jeremy.
Al Horford.
That's normally what they use.
Missed the Al Horford bounce passes.
Have you seen that, your results sheet of like all the L's and it's just the one dub against the Celtics?
Yeah,
bro, it's so
tremendous.
True
Back, thanks for following. What was that?
You need to follow the Did the Thunder Win Twitter page.
I saw the Sixers win Twitter page.
Yes. Which is it's an iconic piece of what the process give that team. You got to get on quick on this tanking Thunder culture. It's tremendous stuff.
Oh, I'm there. I didn't tweet it last night, but I thought about it, and I'll say it here on the stream. All right, I followed the Thunder Win Twitter. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm very excited for like 4 years from now to be like, I remember when we were running Isaiah Roby and Gabriel Deck and all these dudes who are going to be out of the league in 4 years. I remember these lineups, like posting the screenshots of Thunder starting lineup with these dudes. Like, look at us now. Like, I'm very excited for those tweets in 4 years.
That's it, man. It's a culture. You're with it. You're ready for this thing, man. This is gonna be fun. But I mean, it's already fun, right? I mean, as I just said, the Celtics one's tremendous. Some bits from JJ. He says, excited for Joe's first show, and I'm scared about the way you're framing this show as though I'm doing stand up my own or something. It's very scary. Give me anxiety that I didn't expect to have. I saw Riley asked about Omega when he struck the title. I think personally I've always thought Hangman was winning it all out, so nothing changes for me. But man, I'm pumped to see Dynamite back in arenas. Listen, morally, should I be? I don't know. It's dumb wrestling, who cares, right? But I'm fired up. I am fired up to get crowds back. It should be great. Now, If you're wondering, folks, why I am approximately 80% of the screen, and why I'm only drinking water is because I'm going to be professional tonight, because apparently this is a solo show. Is apparently how it's been advertised on the banner. We're only 5 minutes in, we've got 34 folks, that's very nice. Today is the first of a new series of sorts, for now. We'll see how this first one goes, but I do have a lot of matches in the backlog, ready to go for future weeks. This is going to be My Match Monday, which is a series in which, on non-pay-per-view weeks, we come on here on Mondays, and you guys give me 4 matches, you know. I've got the other one, 5-match card, sort of takeover style. I'll try and get some variety in there and scatter the kind of styles around, and the settings and stuff. And I will try my best to review these things in, like, as best detail as I can. Okay, now I am not a good match reviewer, but I try my best. I kind of, with this kind of self-indulgent show that we got here, I want to put shine a light on the culture that this comes from, this is inspired by, which is nuanced, detail-heavy match reviews, which I think there's some fabulous people at, and if I can kind of get you interested in that, or you already are and you want to come on here and have some fun with it, that's tremendous. We've done this for 1 week, okay? I watched 5 matches. I left all of them with an increased kind of understanding of them and an appreciation for them and the people involved. If I can do that, review match you guys want me to, and then along the way you hear about a match that you don't know about, you haven't seen, and then you go and check it out, that's tremendous. I'm all for that. So stick with me here, folks. My intentions are good, and they are also somewhat ego-driven. But I'm ready to get started. Jeremy, have you got any closing statement before I tank the Twitch?
I have no closing statement. This is Joseph's show. I will chip in a little bit if I deem it necessary. But otherwise, you'll probably just see me here in the corner working on articles, and that's about it. I've listened to Jasmine Allure interviews today. You know, I'm sure everybody's listening to those. And that's what I've been doing. So I'm gonna send it over to Joseph. I'm gonna grab a glass of milk. Joseph, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy's a big milk guy, folks. I think you heard that at the start of the stream, but if not, there you go. So we're actually starting here a little bit close to home. Kirby Freeman suggested to me, I believe via the Twitter, he suggested me a few matches. They're all noted down, Kirby. I'll get to them, but the one we're doing today is Asuka and Emma from TakeOver London, which I thought was a really cool place to start because this is one that I was actually in attendance for. I view this, and probably incorrectly so, chat may disagree, I'm not sure, I view this as peak NXT, not in terms of quality, but in terms of buzz. That kind of portion of time where they felt like the wrestling show, and they were kind of reinventing the way that people saw national promotions. To me, this one, this show, for me, obviously for personal reasons, will always stand out, but this kind of run of time, you know, Brooklyn's 4 months away. They're moving out of Full Sail for takeovers. In 4 months, you've got Dallas with Shinsuke. It's a special time, and the atmosphere captures that. It's, you know, to this point, I vividly remember the absolute nightmare it was trying to secure tickets for this thing, and just the buzz of it. It was a real event, and the atmosphere was one that will stick with me forever. So to capture the context, though, Asuka is so new here to the territory. She's 2 months removed from her NXT debut, that while the audience very much likes her and gets with her more as the match goes on, her entrance is like relatively not unover, not flat, but it's like, oh, she's cool. If she'd have come back 6 months later and came out in front of this crowd, the place would have blown on the entrance. But she gets here in the end, and that captures kind of where we're at here, relatively speaking. This thing is so old, folks. Rich Brennan is on the call, which threw me off because I haven't heard the Rich on a WWF show in some time. I hope he's well. I think he was a good announcer. I enjoy him on these things. Speaking of things I enjoy, the Evil Emma theme. Remember that one, Jeremy? The horrific remix of Emma's like dancing theme.
Yes. Horrible.
That is in motion here. The Dana Brooke is here. And look, as I said, Asuka may not be, established in the way that she would be soon, but she's over enough that as soon as the thing starts, they chant her name and they're ready to go. This crowd, frankly, if it opened with Jeremy and I throwing the Dukes, they'd have been all in. They'd have been absolutely all in. Now, Emma is a very interesting professional wrestler. Joel, I believe Rich, he definitely was working in MLW last time I saw, but I want to say he's recently been removed from that spot. I could be wrong. He definitely didn't do one set of tapings, but I don't know if that's because he's left or he just couldn't make it. But either way, good announcer. So anyway, nonetheless, Emma is interesting because she's very well trained and fundamentally sound, and she's a smart professional wrestler. But she's not always got the oomph and the energy and the intensity that you kind of associate with like supreme in-ring performers, people that throw themselves into stuff. She isn't that way. That's just not her nature. So she's presented here in NXT very smartly as kind of a standoffish in terms of arrogance, and she doesn't need to be that way. It actually is used as kind of a strength, you know, and it's all pretty basic stuff. She's kind of carrying early, and it must be said that with what I just said about Emma, you have a perfect contrast with Asuka, who is like, she's a killer, right? Everything Asuka's doing here is sharp, and she's as quick as ever at this point, man. She's so on point. And you have this, you know, you immediately can kind of split them in that way, which is neat, I think, even if it's not intentional. It's just the way these two match up. You know, her face is always reacting to what's going on. She's working throughout. You know, so often when you use that term work, and it's like what, you know, a suplex or what move they're doing, but it's really the kind of body language that someone's putting into each hold and each transition. Asuka is masterful at it. They do this extended grappling exchange, which, you know, it's not really my thing, but it's fine. I think it's a little bit ill-fitting in the match because we open with Asuka trying for a big strike and Emma kind of trying, you know, taking a powder. But nonetheless, with Asuka, there are very seldom dull moments when she's on offense. So she ups the speed, she goes through the gears, and then Dana, she doesn't do anything. She just walks towards, stretches Asuka, and you go to the cut-off spot. Now, to her credit, this is about as good a job as Emma's done, and that's not a surprise now because everyone knows this is a critically acclaimed match that, you know, is probably match, either this or the famed takeover match with Paige. She does ramp it up, and she's battering Asuka, actually. She's really, and Asuka's selling with such emphasis that it really kind of, the intensity and the spirit of the thing ramps up. I do always love the dynamic, and this will be a common theme, folks, as we do these shows. I love the dynamic of a heel that's cowering, they're chicken shit, and then the first sight of getting a cut off and they're in control, they're kicking ass, you know, and now all of a sudden they're in control. It's simple, but it's all about the kind of nuance where it's done. So Emma here, there's a palpable mean streak to what she's doing. And that's the most important ingredient for her when she's working heel, because without it, frankly, there's a lot of dead air, and you know, the rhythm isn't always, it doesn't always flow. Now, one thing that's an interesting element to this match is that while she's still very much the heel, she's firmly cemented in that role, and Asuka's the babyface, Emma is not Dana Brooke. Understatement, right? Brooke did a match with Asuka that I thought was a lot of fun, but she can only do so much physically to match up with Asuka, right? She's going to play chicken shit, she's going to do some character stuff, Asuka's going to beat her up. With Emma's own sort of technical acumen, you have a different piece of the puzzle here, right? Because these two can actually trade holds and go back and forth, which adds little ups and downs that you wouldn't usually get in a match that, effectively, let's be honest, we all knew the result of this one, right? They get us at the end, but we all knew. It was a simple roadblock for Asuka. But Emma allows it to be more than that, which I think is important. Yes, it's, you know, Emma, for all I said earlier, in this match, she's on and she's nasty and she's spiteful, she's throwing great strikes, everything she's doing looks good. You really would have to be nitpicky to kind of pick holes in what she's doing in this match. And Asuka is obviously Asuka. Eventually, they settle into a hold. Asuka kind of fights upward, makes her first comeback. And my reaction was, oh, that kind of felt unearned. But it's not the comeback yet. She cuts her off again. And that point, it was interesting to me because while I remember people liking this match, it was a bold choice to have Asuka fight from underneath this much in what her maybe a handful of matches in NXT career, second takeover match. It was a bold choice, and it's a credit to Emma that people watched it and said actually they like this. Now I know that it was polarized when they did it on WWE pay-per-view. I sensed the execution was different, but maybe we'll watch that another time. We'll see. But nonetheless, yeah, she's still getting heat on. She's still getting heat, and Asuka, every time she gets Hope's bar, it's like the people, they believe it's their full comeback every single time. I do wish there was an idea or two more to Emma's kind of control here. She isn't, she hasn't really got a target or a focus that can give the third portion of the match a little bit more weight. It's more she's just doing stuff. It's good stuff. So I haven't got any kind of issue with it because it's done with commitment and her character is in place here with Dana shouting and being annoying. That you have something that's effective, even if it isn't particularly interesting, it's fine. They end up with double down. I think Asuka gets a drop kick, boom, double down, back to square one. Did your viewing on the match change at all with the TV presentation? Honestly, man, I remember it so. I just remember it being a good match and I remember the finish. I didn't remember any, so it's difficult for me to compare. I liked it both times. I guess I'll put it that way, JB. It was real good, There's a couple of production things with WWE that I just like, but it was very good. And NXT was, especially then, was a lot more kind of restrained, which helps a lot too. Speaking of such, when they hit the double down, old Drake, everyone's favourite referee, comes in and begins to scream time cues, which is not ideal. I would recommend against that, but I would recommend against a lot of things that Drake does. He doesn't appear to listen. And now here we go. Now Asuka's making a full comeback. Of course it rules, right? It's an Asuka comeback. We know what we're getting here. She does this like sort of standing salvo of strikes that includes like 3 spinning back fists. There's like a knee in there. All of it sounds incredible. Emma's taking it. She's reading it's great. And people buy like the simplest stuff as a false finish because it's building nicely. It feels like the finish can come at any moment because the thing's in a nice flow, trending upward. And that's important, I think. But nonetheless, they never settle into a rhythm with Asuka on offense, which is interesting, again, because what I said, she's new here. It's caught me off guard. But it does add some drama because with that, you get the sense that, we're still waiting for Asuka to really gain control of this thing. Where are we headed? Rather than it settling into a basic, rigid structure, it never does that. And Emma adds, I think they call it the dilemma, which is like the Tajiri rope deal, which is pretty cool. She does a couple of desperation pins, hooks the leg a few times over, which is always a neat deal. She then takes a little long on something, and Asuka just kicks the shit out of her. She rallies, she grabs an ankle lock, does the ankled like hook German suplex, I don't know what you call that. Someone check and help, but it is absolutely tremendous. They end do a spot that's very interesting, and I feel I may talk about it a lot because I think a lot of the guys, good brothers, sent in Samoa Joe matches because they know how much I love him. But they do this deal where Asuka hooks the Asuka lock, but they're standing, right? And Joe will do this a lot where he hooks the Kina clutch standing up. And I have to say, consistently, modern fans just do not buy this as a potential finish. And the place suddenly goes dead quiet. It's fascinating because in 1995, this would have been, oh shit, she's got a finish hooked. The end is nigh. Not here. The crowd suddenly doesn't care, which is, it's always interesting to see that stuff where they just misread it slightly, or the agent did. Nonetheless, there's a ref bump, and then they do this deal where like Emma's got to evade Asuka and she's a little late, so Asuka just kicks her in the head. Tough, that to ignore that one, but nonetheless. And then it becomes full like pantomime stuff in the finish, right? So you have, Dana's throwing a prop, Asuka gets caught with it, everyone's looking both ways, the referee's selling. It's really entertaining stuff. And they get people to buy on the finish because Emma catches a roll up, Asuka gets the Asuka lock, and then Emma taps where referee's distracted. So now at this point you're sitting there going, well, holy shit, Asuka's had this thing won twice. She's going to get screwed here. They're actually about to beat Asuka. This is insanity. But of course, not quite yet. Emma grabs the gimmick, big swing up before she even could swing the thing. Asuka hits like a spin kick, pins her, and the finish is really some like 1980s WWF shit, and I mean that as a compliment, where the babyface has all these hurdles in there. She's like, nah, this is easy enough for her. Like, it's a tough match. She's not dumb. She's not gonna get caught by this stuff. Really good match. As the first, it is the best match we've ever done, Jeremy, on the My Match Monday, which is, big thumbs up in that regard. Doesn't hold that title for very long, unfortunately, with what's up next, but nonetheless, very good. Jeremy, do you have any memories of this TakeOver match? It's pretty critically held in high regard, I want to say, right? Asuka and Emma?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
He sure was. Now, here's how I want to do this show. So, I don't want to be ranting and raving here for hours. So, I see some stuff in the chat. I'll tackle that now about the Emma and the Asuka and any other stuff. I don't want to make it sort of like a police thing, but 4.25 stars. I'd say, listen, ironically, it's
let's-
actually like probably just shy of that. I'd say it's 3 3/4 around that range.
Let's see what it was given.
Okay. It's going to be around that area, man.
Think so?
I think it is, yeah. Riley says, I know a lot of people aren't a fan of Emma anymore, but I still say Emma in NXT was great. She was always a wrestler who could deliver at least a good match. She was very good here. They knew her strengths and her weaknesses, and they used it correctly. The question with her now is her motivation. You know, I mean, her performance it suggests that she's not quite as locked in as she once was.
The match was given 4. So there you go.
It was very, very good. I mean, I don't want to say this is a negative about Asuka because it sounds immediately like I'm being, a dick about where she's at now, but it actually stood out to me, Jeremy, how much quicker she was then, which is incredible because she's still like top 3 quickest women in terms of hitting the ropes and doing her shit. Like, she's still rapid. Back then, my God, it was blinding, and it's just natural, right? Like, it's
been 5 years. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, you're gonna get slower after 5 years, especially with the wear and tear. And I mean, honestly, I don't blame her for just like kind of going at a little slower pace considering the matches she's working most nights.
Exactly. Partly just her adjusting her own style.
Yeah.
And things change, and she realizes that the requirements are different for her, the expectations are different. Like, it's not, they're not sitting behind the curtain kind of going, well, a little bit slower this week, right? She's a character.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Now, before we move on here, I'll see if the chat has any last. JJ, who is an Impact guy, says Tenal still rules. Tim says,
like, her match against who'd she face? She faced Jordan, or not Jordan. She faced Deanna at the last pay-per-view, right? Like, that was fine, but I feel like it left a little something to be desired. I just don't know how much like actual motivation she has coming off of the WWE run, because she was like, everyone thought, oh man, she's like the can't miss star now that she's out of WWE, and I was just never there. And like, it happens, I get it, and sometimes you don't know if it's promotion's fault, sometimes you don't know if it's the performer's fault. Probably it's a little bit of both, but I think she was given a good opportunity with Impact, but at the same time, I mean, I just don't know how much her motivation was there with it, because there's no reason why she couldn't have been what Deanna has turned into when she was gone.
I agree with that. I do think, and while Deanna is proof that you can do it, I do have sympathy for the sense that, like, it is definitely harder as a women's wrestler, right? Like, there's not, there's not a plethora of, incredible matches. Like, there's stuff there, but the audience is inevitably is slimmer. It just is what it is. But I agree with you. Deanna's proof you can do it. So, it's just motivation, probably. I get it.
I wonder if she, because when was she released? Right? Do what?
It was after the Asuka match. So it was the fall of 2017. I want to say October, September, around there.
So I wonder how much, because like, she was released at a time where, like, it was pre AEW. Like, ROH was like, dude, their women's division, because she went to ROH, right? Like, she did some matches in ROH. Like, their women's division was just, they never put any stock into that. Impact, I think she could have done more in Impact if things had just kind of clicked there. I wonder how much like she was hurt that like an AEW wasn't around at that time, because if like AEW was around and they were able, like, she was one of their first big signings, then it could have been a whole different story for her, because by the time AEW came around, it was like the bloom was off the rose with her, unfortunately.
Already kind of a book wrote on where she was at this point, and there's nothing wrong with that. She got hurt in her latest ROH run. She did, I believe. Yeah, that was when. Yeah. Because was that where her absence was before this latest Impact run?
I think.
When did she? Yeah. Okay. Well, God bless her. She had a very good match here, so nonetheless.
Yeah, and she was supposed to be part of that stable that went absolutely nowhere.
Oh, that was something. That was a Ring of Honor chapter in itself.
Lifeblood. Now, not Bloodline. Ron Patel gifting out the sub to Almader. Almader has already said thank you, so there you go. Ron Patel, very, very kind man.
He is very much so. Kirby says there was a spot during this match. Did the ref whisper, yell, please? I don't know, please kick out? I didn't spot that, but I mean, I said he had the time cue one, so like, it wouldn't surprise me. He was. Yeah, let's not talk about him. We're staying in England for the next one. Gurney Mac sent us this one. He sent a few great ones, actually, that I've heard things about and I wanted to watch. Comfortable each and our friends, the Santana and the Ortiz, Jeremy Lambert interview alumnus, Ilya Dragunov, and Volta. I'm going to say Volta correct this time, Jeremy, because someone got upset at me once before. Remember that? Now, we're heading up to Manchester for this one, but we're staying in England. Phil's fitting, we'll do that on our first My Match Monday here. I have been an interesting one on the Volta, right? Or the Volta, right, Jeremy?
Yes.
Very interesting.
You're a hater.
I upset people by saying that I did not think he was the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yeah, hater.
Caused great controversy. Now look, he's very interesting. Here's why. It's going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but if you know me, you know it's not. He probably has the most simple, like kind of stripped back, bare, critically acclaimed classics of his era. This man, of kind of doing these elaborate sequences, it's very simple, it's very blunt, and it's a classical character archetype, and you just need to slot in the guy next to him. They can going to make up the difference. He's going to do what he does. But for the most part, you're looking at the opponent to be Kirby Peacock. I would imagine they've not yet added the UK independence. Would be my guess. Well, they might have not added this particular one. It's on the WWE Network internationally, but there you go. So this match is interesting. Clearly, though, these guys had a famous rematch, right, in the iconic BT Sports Studios, Jeremy, which was such a great match that it actually made people watch NXT UK, which is the equivalent of making people watch this shitty stream right now, right? I mean, that is a feat and a half. But nonetheless, I'll now get to the match after much stalling about my takes on the Volta. But seriously, though, he is a defiant force, and it's simple stories, and I'm for that. And Dragunov is perfect for him because he does the exact things that Volta needs to make it work. And it's like, when you have a guy as defined as him as the mountaintop and the opposition, the littlest stuff can speak volumes. So, for example, this match starts with Dragunov, he takes center ring, and he pushes Volta. And all that does immediately is just captures the idea that he is not intimidated and his role is different to everyone else, because the story they're telling is that in the past Dragunov has defeated Volta multiple times and he has his number, and they actually go as far as to say that Volta fears him as an opponent. So you have a different element, and it's captured in the first spot because Volta begs off. He's whiny a little bit here, which is a thing he did quite a bit as the UK crowds really began to turn on him with the NXT UK. The kind of, not turn on him, but the playful booing and stuff. He would do this sort of thing where he would like sulk, which is actually kind of fun. I have no problem. I saw some mixed reviews on it, but I've always enjoyed it when I see it. Now, you see, he does that earlier, he bows and all that good stuff, and we have this element that he fears Dragunov. Now, what's great about this is it allows Volta to work logically a different style. He's more restrained early on, right? He's grabbing holds and he's trying to just find his feet in this thing because he's not as comfortable as he usually is. He's the destroyer, but in this case he's fighting a guy who knows how to beat him. So it's simple enough stuff, but it's done well, and that's all you need to do here. And there's a great moment in that regard where they're exchanging holds. By the way, folks, I should have made it clear, this is Progress Chapter 92. They're exchanging holds until Dragunov's back is turned for like a moment, and Volta jumps all over him. Suddenly he wants to strike, right? Suddenly he wants to go blow for blow. He just cannot get a grip on the thing early on. He can't. There's an uncertainty to him that is completely at odds. Like, just confidence and assuredness of Dragunov, who will not take a backward step. It really is a natural matchup, as we found out obviously a couple of years later in the famed BT Sports Studios. But it forces the champ kind of shortcut, and he takes a little cheap shot where he suggests he's going to lock up, kicks Dragunov to the gut. And he's struggling here to kind of get a grip on things, but he is finding his feet, and they're beginning to trade strikes, getting into those exchanges that go viral once a week, where he chops people very hard, and they are indeed very fun because he does chop people very, very, very hard. But again, every time they go blow for blow, and it's a fair match, Dragunov kind of has him reeling, like he seems startled by him, and he has, because his offense has more range, it makes sense, right? Like even as a guy. And he can run wild. Like he can do dives and do big splash and stuff, and it fits the idea that Volta just can't contain this guy. His energy is off the charts. So Now, the cut-off spot is interesting, and it causes a moment later in the match that's particularly interesting too. So the cut-off is, if you guys remember when Enzo Amore Simon Gotch famously slinged Enzo Amore into the bottom rope. That is basically what the cut-off spot is here. However, the production, which is obviously a strong word, it's a progress show, they've got a camera, it's weird. But it doesn't help, because Dragunov rightly takes the thing very, very, kind of safely, and he takes it with understandable precaution, where he hooks the rope, falls. And it does make you kind of go, it didn't hit the way you wanted it to. After all that offense, you wanted it to get cut off with real vigour. But nonetheless, the announcers start doing the solemn deal and the whole, maybe he's dead and all that good stuff. And it was a neat idea. I sympathise with him on this. We spoke about this earlier, and now Walter has got Dragunov his mercy, and all of a sudden, he's a killer again, right? He's a monster. He's ready to go again now. He's confident. He's being the cool badass. He does a powerbomb on the apron. He's just kicking the shit out of Dragunov, but he's clotheslining big boots, all the good stuff. And now we've finally got to the dynamic you came into this, or I came into this as someone that I think had seen this match once but didn't know the context, didn't pay attention, which is what you'd expect, right? Dragunov's the guy fighting from underneath, basically getting mauled. One theme in this thing is the neck, which we just spoke about with the car spot. It's a thing, but everything is really a target in this. Because Walter is so spiteful in control, and he's so aggressive, and he's dominant, right? But I think that if I was to be critical and pick holes, becomes a problem later on. A very, very slight problem for me personally. Nonetheless, Walter, he can be, for me, inconsistent as the mere opposition, the mere mountaintop, because the charm of that act is he's straight-laced and simple, right? He's going in there to kill a guy, and the opponent will shape how things go. I think that, for my personal taste, can be a problem against guys that aren't strong at emoting and selling. Well, thankfully, Dragunov, he throws himself in. Frankly, he's always been able to provide that for her, and here he goes a little far at times. But it works, man. The crowd is rocking for every one of his comebacks. It's electric. The champ is just a great bully, and a good example of it is that spot where he's in control, and he's kind of taunting, and Dragunov fires back with a simple suplex, and just that on its own gets the place to just erupt. It really is a credit to the aura of that character. That kind of rally gets people so fired up. It's really good stuff. And now we're rocking. And Dragunov's, he has this element where Gurney Mack, who's just match, says, I was in the crowd for this match, and the atmosphere was insane. You could feel it, man. It was electric. It really, really was. He rallies a bunch of clotheslines, and it's this idea that he's got to keep flurrying, right? Because Volta's a big monster of a man, and Dragunov's got to just keep hitting like it, and try and hook a pin, try and do what you got to do. And opposite him is a guy who is just clubbing him, it's single shots. He doesn't need to go combinations or flurries. He needs to just grab a hold of him and whack him as hard as he can. They're made for each other. It's really a perfect match between them two. That is, I'm gonna have to stress my little nitpick because I'm a dickhead, but these two guys, they are made for each other very, very much. And now we're getting into, back and forth, and they trade German suplex, and again, the place just comes unglued for this. It's incredible. The atmosphere is amazing. It was one of those things where I sat there, watching this deal and was like, man, when things get back, I need to make better use of my chance to see some of these shows. I really do. It was wonderful stuff. And this is a night after Dragunov worked with a guy that I try not to talk about much, and Volta worked with Kingston. And now that's a match for folks that have got access to that or can see that, where Volta's kind of simplistic approach, I think, hurts it slightly. Here it's perfect because they can match physically in a way that Kingston's not going to. So even still, it's tremendous that these matches are one after the other. It always amazes me, that stuff. Now, nonetheless, Dragunov's approach of just bombarding him and throwing everything at the wall He eventually kind of catches up to him because he goes up top and gets clotheslined out of there. And it is like, you know, I'm hoping you guys can imagine what I'm saying here. Volta clotheslines the man out of the air. It looks as cool as you're thinking it does. It really does. Then, much to my friend Jeremy's chagrin, a Rich Swann style false finish happens where Dragunov manages one of those kickouts. You know, one of those ones that upsets people very much. I don't think he's actually tired. Rich may have been, but I'll comment no further on this. Walter isn't wasting any more time now, though. Like he knows Dragunov's at 2.9. He's in big trouble. So you now have the guy who is generally like a cyborg. There's kind of a desperation to him, right? Like, you know, he's stomping away, he's snatching submissions, and Dragunov at this point, his results feel like last ditch, and he's outgunned in every which way, but he's still fighting. The people still believe he can win this thing. And I think Gurney Matt, when he suggested this to me, said this was the match where he thought, okay, Volta could actually lose here. And that's so important. That belief fuels the match. It's interesting because we actually got a chance to see what this match looks like in Empty Arena effectively with the NXT UK thing. But this version of it, I feel, is so enhanced by the crowd, which isn't an insult. That's what wrestling should be. That's what I love about it. Now, we do get a great couple last false finishes from Dragunov. He has like a DVD. He does a Liger Bomb. And people are biting on every false finish for the reason we just spoke about. Then there's this one where, and I can't remember the move's name, I apologise, folks, but Dragunov hits one of his signature deals. And rather than cover Volta as he has on the last few deals, he clutches his neck. It felt slightly unearned. The cutoff spot was on the neck, and Volta did stuff on the neck, but it never felt like a true straight line thread through the match in the way that I want it to be when it came so important this, because they did the hard part. They fitted the cell in. They fit the cell in. Moscow Torpedo, I think. They fit the cell in a way that would reward your attention to detail for watching the last 3 minutes. But unfortunately, I didn't feel they'd really truly earned that. And the crowd's reaction, while they were still very much with it invested, was almost a sort of, like they didn't, you know, as soon as he took that long a cover, it was kind of like, it felt forced and it didn't feel organic to me. That's my one nitpick for this whole thing, which is great. It's a fabulous match. If you haven't seen it, do your best to check it out. It's a brilliant match. And then, you know, Volta makes him pay for it, and he basically fuses through that and just... There's like one last rally, I think, from Dragunov. But for the most part, after that, he just bludgeons him into the mat. And the finish is one of those deals that's like, can he kick out again? No, he's done. Look, it's over. It's very... One thing I do love about Volta's matches is his matches usually end with that kind of like, damn, dude just can't be beat. You know, like he'll do whatever it takes in the end. He'll hit whatever he needs to hit until that shoulder doesn't come up anymore. It's immediately replacing, sorry Kirby, but it's immediately replacing Asuka and Emma as the strongest match in My Match Monday history. It is a classic, it's a great match. If I could take that little piece out or maybe add some more depth to the stuff on the neck, it would be almost perfect, I would say. It's Volta at his best, and Ilya Dragunov is obviously a terrific wrestler that probably, if we're being honest, deserves more love from the sort of wider wrestling, community. Chatter and all that good stuff. Jeremy, I'm going to guess you have not seen Progress Chapter 92, Entertaining Friends.
You could have stopped that as, Jeremy, I'm going to guess you've not seen Progress.
There you go. It's fun. I mean, I'm not someone that's watched, you know, the arcs and all that good stuff. I wish I'd kind of done more of that stuff while it was hot. But I've seen a bunch of individual matches, and I do love the atmosphere and the kind of the energy to the whole thing and the way that it's represented is such a big deal. I think it's so important, man. Like, however many people you got at your shows and whatever the audience is worldwide, it's like, if you can take it seriously, I'll try my best to do the same thing. Without that, we're kind of just popping each other, which is a lovely transition to WeeLC, but I'll get to that momentarily. I'll wait for the chat if they have anything on the Ilya Dragunov or the Volta. Wow, it's been 40 minutes, Jeremy. I've done 2 matches. Tremendous average time for the production by me there. This is true. 15-minute reign for Asuka is very rude. Wow, hairline dunk. Wow. My hairline's actually very good. Like, I've just
Why are people being mean about your hairline in the chat?
It's just like someone comes in and out of Twitch, they do it still. I like to respond to them because I think it might. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're scrolling aimlessly through Twitch videos to leave like comments like that, I sense I should pop you to make your day better. So, there you go. Now, changing style up next, as we have got Joe Ben's suggestion of WeeLC, which is, if you did not guess, folks, a very, very different style of match to anything Vulture has done as the sort of kingpin of professional wrestling. It's very, very different, and that's why I've got, I'm going to try and make this a thing, guys. As we go through these, I want to have some variety and change things up. Now, this is a very famous match that I have to be honest, and I told Jeremy this, I have only seen clips of this thing. I've never actually sat down and watched it in full, but I've heard great things. Everyone agrees it's really good. It is insane. It's wild. If you haven't seen the WeeLC match, I recommend you change that, because I did so today, or when I first watched this on Saturday maybe, and it's like, it's a trip, man. It's a wild, wild match. I've seen a little bit. El Torito. This is from, I want to say, Extreme Rules 2014, I believe it is, folks. And Torito is with Primo and Epico, who at this point are like, I don't know what their names are at this point, but they're Los Matadors and all that good stuff. And Hornswoggle is with the 3MB. And Kirby says here, Drew is in peak form. Drew is in his rightful position here as a member of the 3MB. And, they have like, they've got like three little people parodying Cole, JBL, and King on the as an announced team. But Cole and the rest of them never stop talking, so it's just like two teams bickering. It's just wild. He matches the match. It's insane. Now, how would one start a match between Hornswoggle and El Torito, in which it is effectively a TLC match? Well, the answer is very simple. You would meet them in the middle, like Don Fryer and Takayama at Pride. In Pride, as these men meet in the middle and just begin to punch the shit out of each other. It is incredible. It sets the tone. It's wild. It's all over the place. And like El Torito, obviously, I don't know if this is a hot take, folks, because I'm not like an expert on the match career, but he's obviously like actually good, right? And he does a head scissors, he does a dive. He wipes out all the 3MB with this dive, other than Hornswoggle, who scurries away. Hornswoggle, however, cannot do a dive. Now, what's funny about this is, on its own, you have the visual gag of the Hornswoggle trying to do a dive and instead just bouncing off the ropes. Admittedly, funny. When you add to it that the rest of the guys were just standing there waiting to catch him and like, oh, now that's that's kind of layered there. That's pretty strong stuff. I like that a lot. And Torito, he gets like a tiny little chair, and he uses it for like he elevates himself for a Bronco Buster deal. It's innovative, folks, let me tell you. Now, pre-games, Jinder Mahal is here. When he gets involved and there's a ref bump, and by ref bump I mean like he just like falls on the referee who stands back up. This is, in fact, folks, the cut-off spot of the bout. Hornswoggle comes in, he starts running wild, he's in control now, the nasty heel that he is, ravishing Hornswoggle. He's got this, he gets given like a tiny little ladder, that's, step ladder, and he throws it out, dismisses it, and they give him a slightly bigger step ladder, which is also very funny. It rolls. It's light-hearted bullshit, you can't knock it. Hornswoggle, however, is scared of heights, and he takes so long to do a splash on El Torito. The Torito he stands up and dares the Hornswoggle to splash him, laying back on his back like this, of course then moving, and poor old Hornswoggle takes a flat bump on his face. The response to this, as it should be when a man has made a fool of you in a WeeLC match, is the Hornswoggle just fucking powerbombs him. Just powerbombs him. While the announce team is like, let's send it to the break, because it's a pre-show, I guess, right? So, that's tremendous, may I say. Powerbomb as the ad transition is great stuff. Now, we come back and the opposing teams, the 3MB and the Los Matador men, they're all brawling and everyone's fighting. And Hornswoggle's rolling there, let me tell you. He's using chairs like Sabu. He's doing like seated sentons and shit. And then they do a great job. I mentioned the parody announce team. Hornswoggle then goes over and like actually pokes fun at the classic announce table spots, and he like throws the stuff off. You know, he's pushing the announce crew. He clears the table out. He puts through on it. He climbs up the apron and does an elbow drop. This crowd cannot fathom what they're watching here. It's insanity. It's completely bonkers. And they begin to chant "Holy shit," which frankly was earned. Then 3MB begins to like just set stuff up. They set up like a table here. These are all, remember, little table, little ladder, all this stuff, and they're just setting it up. And of course, these dipshits are going to find a way to mess it up. That's the beauty of it, right? It's like the dudes in Home Alone. You just know they're going to mess up this thing. You know they're going to find a way to fall on their own face, and you're watching them do it. And it's great that Drew McIntyre's involved because, of course. Now, Hornswoggle grabs the steel chair and just hits El Trio in the head. And the announce team does not quite know how to handle this because it is, in fact, an actual chair shot to the head, which I don't think anyone was expecting from this WeeLC match, but fuck it, man, we're live, roll with it. The crowd, and this is beautiful stuff. I have to do it around here, folks. I am not saying that chair shots to the head are good, okay? I love that we have all trained ourselves so much that that's the line we draw, that even in this WeeLC match, where Hornswoggle used a chair that was about this size, the crowd sighed and went silent for a moment in the sense of like, oh man, he hit him in the head with that. Forget all this other stuff where you're landing through tables, ladders and chairs. No, chairs to the head, we will not cheer such filth. God bless him. And at this point, he hooks old El Torito against the ropes. He hooks him, and Hornswoggle's going to hit him with a chair. He moves and he hits Heath Slash straight in the dick with his chair. Slater stands there selling for about 3 seconds and then takes an all-time table bump for about 5 tables. It's incredible. The crowd love it. And now we're just... This next one, I can't fathom what happens here. Jinder next takes a bump through like 3 tables, but they have ladders on top of the tables. It's insane. I have no idea how they convinced this man to do this in a match like this on the pre-show. They did, and he takes an incredible bump. The most matadors are back now. They make the save and all that good stuff. Drew then lines up a big splat, a big dive over the top, senton deal, and everyone moves, and he just takes a flat back bump through this table that's set up outside. The timing and the placement of this thing has to be perfect. He's got no one to catch him or help him or guide him. He's just doing a flat dive through an empty table, and God bless him, he nails it. So there you go. Listen, folks, you're giving shit like in the WeeLC, you got to kill it, because one day you'll be working Bob at WrestleMania. Now, Torito swings the chair so violently that he hits Hornswoggle in the head with his backswing, which was the actual intended spot, and it's very fun. And then he hits Heath, does a seated senton like Ray Jr. through a table for the victory, and the people cannot fathom what they've just watched. WeeLC, I believe it's about 10 minutes. It's some of the most fun wrestling you'll see. It is just a bunch of guys saying, we're going to just go and kill this thing. No one's taking it seriously. We are. Let's have fun with it. Jeremy, any memories of the WeeLC?
Yeah, it's one of the GOAT matches. Like, this is a match that when we were doing match reviews on the A show, I wish I had picked and we could have reviewed it then, because I haven't watched it in a while, but it's just, I mean, you just reviewed it. It's 10 minutes, you said? It's like, that's it?
So. It might not even be that. It might be shorter than that.
It's just like 10 minutes of nonsense between Hornswoggle and El Torito just doing wacky TLC shit, but obviously they're little people and they're making fun of a lot of it. Like, this is wrestling right here. This is wrestling, Joseph.
And the thing is, I have to stress, they do some stuff that is actively dangerous and aggressive, It's wild, man. That was not my joke. I am crackerjack, but I appreciate it on that witty. Jay Bennett was a very good suggestion. All of these suggestions, by the way, folks, if it was, if there was any mystique to it, all of these were great. You guys like me, because these are all killer matches. This one, obviously, in a very different way, but it is objectively good. It's not like one of those deals where it's like wink, wink. You can actually just enjoy this as a match. It's genuinely good stuff. Now, speaking of good stuff, it's time for my pick, Jeremy. Now, each week, folks, when we do this, obviously some weeks will be pay-per-views, so it is what it is, but each week we do this, I will be picking one match to ensure that I have something that I know about roughly. And this week, that match is WarGames from WrestleWar 92, which I thought was a relevant pick because we upset everyone by saying that we only very much liked the WarGames Blood and Guts match rather than thinking it was the greatest wrestling match in the history of American television. Now, this is perhaps the most beloved WarGames match of all time. That may sound like a hot take. I'm pretty sure it's either one or it's up there. It's very, very, very close. It's a beloved match of an era that I personally really enjoy, which is this early 90s time where everyone's kind of throwing shit at the wall, but WCW has this core group of guys that if you were to describe the kind of wrestler Joe Hulbert likes, God almighty, WCW's got a whole bunch of them. And they're in this match. It's a very special match. And to that point, in the entrance here, we have this famed, it's actually a famed GIF, or GIF, whatever the fuck you call it, that have Pow tape machines, who, God bless, is on the Patreon, which we'll talk about after this. He's produced this GIF, and it's always used all the time to discuss factions. The Dangerous Alliance walking the ramp. And it's like a still shot of, like, just the whole squad walking in one straight line, like, you know, like Medusa, Rude, Austin, all the... It's star-studded. It's probably, again, may sound a hot take, I'm telling you guys, it may be the most talented faction in professional wrestling history. It's absurd, the guys these guys. And then you've got the manager of Paul Lee for 6 guys that don't need anyone to talk for him. Whiskey Dick says, I slightly like 99 WarGames more, solely because of how nasty Sid's Powerbomb Pillman is. I was just about to say, when I was talking about the favourite ones, I think that may be the contender to put alongside it. A lot of people love 94 too, which is a very special match, but I think it's more sentimental and romantic than it is as action-packed as 91 and 92. But nonetheless, they're all great. It's a good time in WCW. It's always forgotten in history, and rightly so. It didn't do good business, but man, it's some great stuff in here. Now, that visual is special, and we have the famous shot of Paul Lee doing the tactics, and he's got like a game plan, and he's got this big sheet in front of him everyone's looking at. It has to be said, after this match, we'll be doing the Pale Whiskey deal. We're doing his pick, which is our main event, which is Dude Love and Steve Austin. And it's easy to do the cliche thing and say, well, you know, Austin, he was a great wrestler, and then he became a character and all that good stuff. And cliches can be that way because, frankly, they're true. It speaks volumes, folks, that Steve Austin is opening this match, because look at the Dangerous Alliance. For those of you at home that don't know, we're looking at, okay, Larry Zbyszko, we'll scrub him. Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Steve Austin. They choose Steve Austin to open this thing, man. That says a lot about where he's at this point. As a relative rookie in 1992, that is incredible. And he and Wyndham started off here. Jay Ben has subscribed at Tier 1. He's been subscribed for 3 months. Currently on a 3-month streak. Thank you to Jay Ben. WeeLC got him fired up. He said, I've got to come back, baby. Here we go. Whiskey Dits, I love Stunning Steve. He is, in fact, very good. Now, he and Barry start this thing off, and they are... Barry Windham has that uppercut, which is like... It's not the Kane one or the Gallows one. It's slightly more arced. It's sort of like a Chuck Liddell shot. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And they're kicking the shit out of each other immediately. It's just an electric start.
That Chuck Liddell uppercut, if you throw it the wrong time and someone times it with an overhand right, it doesn't end very well.
You said it, not I. I can confirm Steve Austin was not landing the overhand right in this one. So I will say this, and this is a kind of side note. Steve Austin once reviewed this match and thought it sucked. I believe he gave it 2 stars. And it's because, in my mind anyway, I haven't listened to that for a long time, once they do that initial brawl, they do kind of settle down a little bit. These 2 guys, just these 2. And I think that upsets Steve when he rewatches this. Because the thing is, it should be noted, as great as Austin is, he's not the heat of the faction. And that's why you hear the people while these 2 guys are fighting, chanting, Paul Lee sucks. And the camera's cutting to him doing tactics and all this stuff. And, they're doing okay, and it's not bad. The first 30 seconds are brilliant. The rest of it is a little bit... There's dead air in there, I guess is the way I'd put it. However, he does have some ideas, Austin, for sure. Like he does like the cross-ring clothesline where he darts from one end to the other. He tries to swing on the cage, which someone later does, Steamboat does later, and he just, eats shit on it, which is good. It dawns on me at this point, folks, as Jim Ross begins to shout. Jim Ross legitimately has now done WarGames matches spanning like 35 years. I mean, that man's seen some blood. He's seen some shit in that professional wrestling ring, let me tell you. Nonetheless, Austin's got colour at this point. He's been, graded on the cage. Wyndham's biting him, which is just terrific, just visceral, horrible stuff that you want in these matches. I will say, first 5 minutes of the match are good. I actually think Dax and Sammy did a bad job with it, which is staggering. Bud Ryan says he's subscribed for 5 months. That is tremendous. He says, Stunning Joe, better than Stunning Steve. Head looks great today, bro. Glad I could sub during more early 90s WCW talk. Take care. Thank you, Bud. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The head is, we're very thin today, folks. Very, very thin. Coney Max says, I had no idea it was Jim until his name was said. He's such a high voice. Right, it's different energy. This, to me, is my favourite version of Jim Ross. But I will say, in the main event of our little card here, shit, man, that 1998 Jim Ross is pretty killer. So, there you go. They do the coin toss live here, which is a tradition. And you will be shocked to know, folks, that the heels win this coin toss in WarGames, which was, in fact, a sort of built-in rule until Vince Russo in World Championship, in top got his hands on the match and said, have you considered having the babyfaces in the coin toss? And I assume Dutch Mantel or someone just sort of said, we'll let you figure out why we don't do it. And he said, well, away we go. Here's what it is.
One of my favorite things that Russo did was, let's have the baby faces get the advantage in WarGames after everyone knew, like, the heels had the advantage for the reason, dipshit.
Yeah. Just, tradition, who needs it, right? It's no, he thinks these things are just for no apparent reason, doesn't he? He really, bless his heart. Now, the heels win it, as I said, and Rude comes in. Now, look, if you're not going to watch this match, God bless, that's fine. There's like 15 seconds here where Rick Rude comes into this match, and like the combination of his intensity entering and the crowd's immediate sort of like, oh shit, is one of the best wrestling things you'll see. He's just brilliant. It fits so perfectly, and the intensity is just so palpable. And immediately Rude's presence leads to Barry Windham getting chance and getting that, getting that babyface feedback that he wasn't really getting before, which is like, look, man, in 1992, Rick Rude is different. This is his peak. This is his best year by, like, miles. It's incredible how much it stands out. And he's got so much heat that the whole vibe of the match changes. The whole response of the match changes in an instant. So they kind of start, how WarGames works, right? Back and forth. Heat, come back. Steamboat's in, and the crowd erupts because he's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, maybe the greatest babyface in wrestling history. He's running wild. He does some cool DDTs. He does where he hangs from the cage and all that good stuff. I just saw Bud Ryan mention that Triple H agreed with that for the last Women's WarGames. I didn't remember that, Bud Ryan, but it sounds about right. The thing is, in defense of Triple H, it's hard when you have two of them because you don't want to hit the same notes, right? So you kind of, it's difficult. I'd avoid doing two WarGames matches is what I'm saying. Riley Walker, 100 bits, says, I feel nobody talks about Rick Rude as much this day. He's great, so much talent in this match. I mean, you should listen. I mean, Riley, just stick with me, man. I talk about him every week. No, you're right. He's an iconic character. The thing about Rude is, and I say this as someone that adores him, he doesn't have a plethora of singles matches that you could point to. And a lot of his career is very much as a gimmick. And there's nothing wrong with that. But he isn't an in-ring guy that you would say he was really prolific. But in 1992, he has this sweet spot with the G1 final, with the Steamboat match, with this match, and with other stuff, where he really is everything you thought he could be, just for that little spell. The rest of the time, he's just an awesome heel, which is a beautiful thing to see, but I think it limits his all-time standing. But that's a different conversation for another day. So anyway, this place is now rocking. We've got four dudes in, and they pair off. You've got the two rivals, basically. Ed and Steamboat and Rude, separate rings. And in comes Arn. Arn tells a great story about when they were touring with this match and doing Horseman versus Dusty's team. He would always open, right, with Dusty. And then one time, Dusty let him come in third or fourth. And Arn came in, DDT, Spinebuster, place was rocking, loving double A. And he walked back through and Dusty said, "You're back starting tomorrow night." If you didn't believe that before, you just heard Arn say it. Watch his entry here, because he enters and murks a guy with a spine. I can't remember who it was. He hits the Spinebuster and the place is like, Arn's the baddest dude on the planet. Arn has like a respect. He has a respect from the WCW audience that is like one of the most authentic things in US wrestling history to me. He's brilliant. No matter what they do with him booking-wise, people always believe Arn's a bad man. I personally think Rude gave Warrior his best matches. I would agree with that. Here's the thing. His matches were less produced than a guy like Savage or Hogan was with Warrior. But he was the guy that could most consistently give them. I would agree with that. Now, there's like a double Boston crowd. Desperate, it's bloody, it's, you know, everyone's now going deeper in their arsenals as the thing builds. It's really violent, gritty stuff. Steamboat takes a bump across the rings because, of course, he does Ricky Steamboat. And in comes Dustin Rhodes, who, let me stress again, folks, is still a great professional wrestler. 29 years later, he could still be in blood and guts of one of the best performers in the thing. He comes in and he's on fire. The timing of this man is incredible. There's a wonderful spot where he does an atomic drop on Austin. And because of the shitty little cage, Steve's head bounces off it. He takes a great bump. It's awesome, man. And then Arn goes to his favourite WarGames spot, which is where he jams his head in between the rings, which is a classic WarGames. Jeremy knows what I'm talking about, right? Like, yeah. He jams his head in there and they're like pulling his legs and sort of mutilating the poor fucker. It's great. It's just wonderful stuff. And then this is the best part of the match. Let me tell you, okay? So Bobby Eaton in next, right? And instead, it's Larry Zbyszko, and you're like, well, that seems weird. Larry should come in last. Every person in this match comes in and kicks ass, okay? Every single person comes in, hits their cool moves, and then we settle in. Larry Zbyszko comes in and immediately just gets the shit kicked out of my Dustin Rhodes. No time for a hot tag from Uncle Larry. He's coming and getting beaten up. Of course he is. But it's actually kind of part of what they're doing here, because instead, Paulie then sends Medusa to climb the cage. Because this is definitely the easiest way to get something in the cage, is to climb the thing and drop it through. She climbs up and she drops Paulie's phone, and Sting climbs up, and they're both looking like they could break through this thing, and he runs her off. And there is, you know, it's fine. It really is all for nothing. I hope that wasn't Paulie's master plan. I'm pretty sure the turnbuckle deal was, but it is funny stuff. There is blood everywhere at this point, folks. And Sting is in next, and of course, this rules, because Sting is a wrestler literally built to be a WarGames hot tag. Like, come on. He can do it, always gets gift on Twitter and shit, where he presses Rude into the cage like 5 times. It looks awesome. It's just great. Arn Anderson is making up for the fact that he didn't open this thing by seemingly hitting the cage every 15 seconds. He's launching himself into the fence, even when people don't really throw him. He's bleeding everywhere. He's working so hard. He's wonderful. Arn Anderson and Dax Harwood. It is the laziest comparison ever. It is the best comparison ever. It's perfect. Now, at this point, Rick Rude decides that he also would like to do the Arn Anderson spot and jams his own head in between the rings and lets the guys pull his legs. This is all very funny. Larry and Barry do a double KO spot. And Paulie sends in Bobby Eaton last while shouting war. His voice, he's screaming war at Bobby Eaton, who of course doesn't know at all, because he is in fact Bobby Eaton. Now, at this point, Rick Rude begins to try and loosen the turnbuckle. And then, you know, we're building this last thing, and Nikita comes in, and I tweet about this, folks, but Nikita comes in, and he goes immediately to save Sting. And they go face to face, because the whole story is this idea that they don't know that and trust each other, and there's been this conflict for years, and all this good stuff. And he saves Sting, and then he takes a bullet for Sting. Then they rally together with a pair of clotheslines, and they hug to a eruption in the arena. People go berserk for these two men hugging each other, and it's just, to me, that's WarGames, man. The idea that you can use the gravity of that match, the violence of that match, the desperation of that match, to pair characters together and to make such, like, dramatic, but not kind of contrived, just truly authentic emotion that moment, if you can find that moment, find it. The people go berserk for this. It's earned. It's great stuff because they care. They're invested in these two guys. Then naturally, there's a bunch of attempted submissions because it's submit or surrender. And I think this is important to know. And I'm not trying to dunk on the AEW guys, who again, let me stress, I thought did a very good job. And for two-thirds of it, I thought had a epic WarGames match. However, when everyone comes in here, you'll notice they do not reset. They do not go, okay, now we're back to square one, we're going to start over again. It's just the end now. The violence and the blood has been spilled. It's time. It needs to now reach the end. There's fresh guys in. And that's where you get to the finish, where the turnbuckle gimmick that I mentioned, Larry hits Bobby, Sting moves or whatever, and Sting closes the show with that shitty arm lock thing. And I've seen a lot of fans, and rightly so, we're all trained to see stuff differently, but a lot of fans say, what a shitty finish, right? For me, it's just a natural conclusion to the match. And of course it would be, Larry involved in it falling apart. To me, it's an absolute escalation. And when it's just starting to okay, now what's next? It finishes. It reaches a natural conclusion. There's no lulls. There's no okay, now we start again and we do all this. To me, this is perfect WarGames. Now, listen, if you saw the match, you didn't like the finish, I completely get it. He's a little bit abrupt. But I personally would prefer that than saying that it feels contrived in the way that those two guys on top of the cage did a week ago. Post-match, we have the Dangerous Alliance arguing, and obviously it's a bigger story arc and all that good stuff. But just a wonderful WarGames match. Tremendous talent pool, all that good stuff. Jeremy Lambert, any memories of the WarGames 92?
It's pretty good.
Agreed. Now, I'll look at the chat here because I've been rambling. I'm glad AEW went towards the bloody brawl. I like the NXT format too, but it's a different kind of match. The WCW method is actual war. Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I think it's important. You did a good job of this in the com, and they're it's important for me anyway. I don't want to shit on those NXT matches because they are exciting matches. But the one with Pat McAfee, I think I reviewed that with Jeremy on the post show. It's a really fun match. I'm not here to say it's bad. It just doesn't have that horrible kind of grimy tint to it that the WarGames should have to me. Which for some people will be better. It depends what you like, right? But nonetheless. Yeah, and to that point about Paul Lee in the chat there, about him being awesome and ruling, it's worth noting here, 1992, Paul Lee is managing Rick Rude, who has a very real case of being the number one heel in professional wrestling. 29 years later, he is managing the consensus number one heel in professional wrestling, and probably the biggest star in professional wrestling in Roman Reigns. Paul Lee has obviously got his faults. What a career he has had, and his ability to adjust and adapt and evolve. It's, it puts him in very, very special territory in terms of historic greatness. He's one of the most kind of significant and memorable personalities in professional wrestling history. Now, speaking of such, we're at our main event here, folks. I hope I've not bored you too much. The viewership has been pretty consistent, which I very, very much appreciate. We are at our main event. It is Over the Edge 98, unless I have mistaken, but I believe it is Over the Edge 98. The Whiskey Dick, he DM'd me or tweeted me I had to DM him to ensure that he was the Whiskey Dick. He was the Whiskey Dick. Steve Austin, Dude Love, Over the Edge 1998. I'm going to be honest here. When you sent me this match out, I was like, oh, Dude Love match, 1998 Steve Austin. Is this going to be much fun? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen this match. I really don't.
Really?
I have no memory of it. No, I had no idea about it, and I kind of thought, because this isn't the stuff I generally like.
Fair.
Now, I spoke about this on our Patreon. I watched, and it wasn't to do this, it's just a coincidence, but I watched the Terry Funk Mick Foley match that took place a few weeks before on Raw, which actually helps give me some context. But I have to say, I left this match genuinely in awe and just flabbergasted at the notion that this is not more talked about. Maybe I'm wrong, Drew. Maybe I'm missing the dialogue. I think this is so slept on, this match. Over the Edge, 1998, Dude Love and Steve Austin. Do you see any talk about this match?
This is a very, like, famous match.
Really?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow, there you go. Well, rightly so, because it's a special match. Now, they do this extended intro, and you have the Pat, you have the Briscoe, you have the Vince. They all have different roles. It's all very shenanigans heavy, which is, you know, this is a part of the time. And I do think this match suffers from, if you watch a lot of it, I think you'll realise quickly that, like, this match was so successful and got over so big that they probably used a lot of these crutches too much, right?
So yes. That's why it's kind of like a famous match. Is I'm pretty sure because Austin won the title at Mania, and I'm pretty sure this was this is the first or second pay-per-view after Mania. I think it's the second. I think he defended the title against Dude Love, and it ended in a DQ. But that was kind of like an over-the-top kind of brawl as well, and that set up this rematch. And like then this became like the staple of Attitude Era main events, and that's why people talk about this match a lot.
Okay, so now it makes sense why I haven't seen it, because 90% of the people I talk with online think that era sucks, and we're probably missing out on the good stuff, which is this, right? That's probably the truth of it. I have to say, before one thing, so Austin obviously gets the pop that Austin gets. It's ridiculous, dude. God, it's amazing. It's actually like, when you rewatch it and you haven't seen it for a while, you're like, this is just absurd.
Yes.
The dude doesn't have to do anything. He's just so over. Then you have the latter pop, which is like, it's not the same, but it's a pretty cool moment where Vince is just about to ring the bell after all this bullshit and Taker arrives, right? And he's got his own huge eruption. I have to say, before we even get to the match, this to me, even though I just said I love early 90s Jim Ross, this is peak JR, right? I mean, this is... his energy and just pure his motivation to give every match the best he can is extraordinary, and it's a complete spectacle already, and the bell has not even rung. The action is a mere backdrop. Thankfully, it's great though. It ends up being awesome. So there you go. Taker is here to oversee things. He's here to make sure they don't sort of take advantage of the situation, and I think that's relevant because basically, as I'm explaining this, it might sound overbooked. Without that, this match would have no reason to be good, because it would be a complete set piece where the story is so limited in terms of stacking the odds against Austin that you'd have no like back and forth. You'd have no reason for it to be a good match effectively. Taker makes Vince play within the rules enough that they can go back and forth and have some kind of excitement beyond just the story, which I think is important, and probably they lost in later years. The referee is established immediately because, you know, he's for better or worse, man, it's a story, and he's the centerpiece of it. So you have Austin's flipping off Vince straight away. Then they kind of go back and forth a little bit, and Mick grabs a quick pin, and Vince does a kind of quick, he's a little quick on the count, and there's like an uncertainty to it, and it just immediately establishes his place in this story. This immediately garners Austin chance because, of course, it also gets Vince chance, which befuddles Jim and Jerry, which I say very much should have. Bizarre. Again, I'm forgetting that this was a thing at the time. Very bad, but nonetheless. Austin then starts to kick ass, and he's obviously very good at this. He even does a deal where he like gets dudes' teeth and stomps on them, which is it's tremendous. But he does pay the price for this because he's distracted for a moment or two. An old dude snaps through. He jumps all over him. He's throwing those great punches. I love Mick's punches, always have. Mick Foley is not a guy that you think of as this great sort of heat segment leader, because frankly, he's just far too selfless. If Mick has his way, he's going to hit two moves in the whole match. He's going to get the shit kicked out of him the rest of the time. He has no interest in beating up anyone else. He would like to beat up himself. That's it. But he's good at it. Nonetheless, you don't get much feed to Lucas press. He's taking a clothesline to the floor like only he can. And this is really good stuff. They hit the floor, and Jim Ross immediately goes, "This is dude." I think his exact quote is, "This is dude's domain." As if to say, this is where Dude Love wants to be. As much as Austin's a brawler, Foley's a lunatic. This is perfect for him. And a second later, Austin does an Irish whip deal, and dude sends him flying into the steps for reversal. It's simple stuff. Is it particularly logical? You can pick holes in whatever you want, but Jim Ross framed it as such that it made perfect sense, right? It was exactly right, and it was executed sharply. It was good stuff. Now the dude he's very good in control here, which I think is very necessary when you're doing a character as absurd as Dude Love. It's important that when you have these moments when you're working a guy like Austin, who is the top star in the whole industry, you gotta have some, you gotta bring some spite and some desperation to this shit, because otherwise, it makes Austin look bad that he's going back and forth with this kind of goofy character. Mick can do that easily. Again, it's not his thing he wants to do. I'd rather you just beat him up for 20 minutes, but he can do it, man. But Austin's always rallying. I will say physically, and maybe it's because the WarGames was the thing I watched, close to this. It's very apparent how physically drained Austin is, which is a real bummer considering, he's at a level of popularity that, frankly, will probably never be matched again. And it's a shame to see. I could see already here, physically, he's struggling, man. He's 8 months removed from the Owen injury. It's tough. And you can see it in just his transitions and stuff. But he works with such intensity, he kind of can paper over the cracks. Dude does the Foley spot where he gets caught in between the top ropes, and Jim Ross explodes as always with he lost his ear, the ear. It's just tremendous stuff. Anyone that watched me as a kid or an adult in the Attitude Era knows the man's ear story has been told 101 times over. And they'll never miss a chance for the main event. It's good stuff. But again, they fight on the floor, and Dude gains some control. It doesn't last long this time, though, because Austin, this thing gets wild now. Vince is announcing this thing's no DQ, and Austin sets Dude up on the barricade and clotheslines him off it in a fashion that is so violent that Jim Ross sounds like he nearly falls out of his chair. He can't fathom the intensity of which Steve Austin has just hit this man. And Dude, of course, why wouldn't he, just lands directly on his head? God bless, right? What are you going to do? Bud Ryan, who complimented my hair, he said, Mick is an amazing heel. Stuff against Taker in the mid-90s, and the hardcore legend Edge team turned me on him, who was a big fan of Mick. Yes, right. I read that wrong, Bud Ryan. My apologies. Underrated heel. I agree, because he's so beloved. He's a great performer. He's a great character. And how he survived the clothesline, the deal. And frankly, the crowd didn't give it enough love. Jim Ross did. Jim Ross couldn't believe it. He was waiting for the thing to be over with. And the replay shows why JR was so wow, because it looks incredible in slow-mo. Steve now goes Hollywood Blondes for a minute, rolls back the years a little bit, and he takes that spot where he would go for he sets the guy up on the ropes, they move, and he takes the arse bump on the ropes, bounces off. To me, I always think that is sort of the height of athletic Austin in WCW. And here, in that moment, he captures it and he takes a hell of a bump. It's really cool. The match has a really continuing kind of swinging structure back and forth. It never just settles into a rhythm. Dude will do something, but then as soon as Austin has a chance for a punches, he's going to start kicking the shit out of him again, inevitably. It's good stuff. Then later on we get to a point where Dude hits the neck breaker on the floor, and they had another rule set, right? Earlier they made it, no DQ, now it's falls count anywhere. Vince is trying to steal a pin without cheating exactly. He's trying to steal one, while Taker's sort of looking over it. Vince is fabulous here, man. Look, whatever you think of Vince, and there's many reasons you should think many different things, he is one of the great characters ever. Easily an all-time character. Now, let me tell you, folks, I was startled to see Austin take the back body drop on the car. And at this point, they begin to use the set in an absurd fashion. Foley, of course, has to do the same. He has to do exactly that. He takes out on the car. They're brawling up on this thing. He's throwing Austin off it. Austin actually takes the bulk of this portion, which kind of stunned me. But Foley can't help himself. See, and bumps. He decides he's going to do the old Beach Blast 92 sunset flip onto the concrete floor, which is just a back bump for him and nothing else. Because of course Foley would do that. He is truly insane. But the brawling there is a great energy to it, and it doesn't feel like that shitty kind of walking punch every once in a while. It feels heated, and it has issue where I feel like I got a real problem. And again, that may be after this, which makes sense. There is a funny moment though where Austin Foley has a pipe of some kind, and he's got it, and he's gonna hit Austin over the back with this thing, and then he completely brothers this deal, like just kind of slowly drops it on his on his spine. It's a reminder again to what I spoke to earlier of, listen, okay, Foley is many things. He's not out there to hurt anyone but himself. He's pretty soft in that regard, which is it speaks to him, right? It's very much authentic, I think. Either way though, after all this violence and that shitty pipe shot, Steve has rightly got colour. He's firing back. The people are going wild for every punch he throws. It's tremendous. Dude just can't help himself but take risks, and he misses a big elbow drop, which looks hilarious because Mick he falls, right? There's no grace to Mick coming off shit. He just falls down. It's amazing. It's tremendous stuff. They fight back to the ring, and Pat's involved physically. He hooks Austin's leg and all that good stuff. And dude now he's kind of got the thing. He has it. He's got in control. And at this point, the people seem to be genuinely kind of wondering where Austin's next comeback is, right? They're kind of unsure of what's going on, because this is the most extended control portion I think for dude, and it's very late in the match, which is an interesting choice. But obviously can't put him away. Pat gives him a chair. And at this point, with the end of seemingly near, Vince is starting to grin here. He's so proud of himself. They've got this thing in the bag. And then, of course, Austin kicks out once, and then he moves on the next one or something like that, and dude just wallops Vince, chair shot to the head. And that is the kind of chair shot that I understand people being like, that's tough, very, very tough. But Vince is still fine, right, Jeremy? His head's not suffered any. What we got here? So then we have to TakeOver just killing Pat Patterson and Briscoe, in which they both try and make a count, and Taker pulls them out, choke slams through a table. Pat Patterson takes a ridiculous bump with his feet. It's incredible. And it's exciting, man. It's dramatic. It's theatrical. It's a little silly because of how much is going on, but you still hooked to what's going to happen next. And then Stunner in center ring, and Austin does the famous finish. I've seen the finish many times where he pulls Vince over and counts it, and the place pops because, of course, it's Steve Austin. He's won, right? This is, for its genre, I'm a big believer on framing everything as genres in professional wrestling. We don't have to look at everything through one lens. But for what this is a masterpiece, dude. This is an insane feat what they've done here. This is it's a top tier piece of wrestling theatre, but within that, it's a WWF style of wrestling theatre, right? It's so of the time, and I didn't realise, Jeremy, you pointed out earlier, until I did a little bit more reading up on it. It seems like this was, as you said, the catalyst for what follows. Yeah. But I think all that follows can make you forget how effective it was here. It doesn't feel at all unnecessary. It all matches up so neatly that even with such excess and ridiculousness, you're popping for every story beat. It is really a special match.
Yeah, I think people, if they rewatch it or they look down on it because this style became so watered down on the Attitude Era, but for someone like you, who you said you haven't watched a ton of Attitude Era type stuff because that's just not your style, if you rewatch this match now and you can see why it's so fondly remembered. But yeah, this really set the tone for the Attitude Era and Austin's style and everything, because he was clearly banged up going into the Michaels match. I mean, really ever since the Own incident, he wasn't that same guy. He had to switch his style up. And if they hate, let them hate. The money piled up. But Austin became this brawling kind of style. That was a 50 reference right there. But he became this brawling guy, and that's what worked for this era, and this was the match that really kicked that off. And at the time, it never seemed watered down. If you go back and you watch this stuff in succession now, you'd be like, oh yeah, this is the same beat every single time. But like wrestling was so hot at this time, and like Austin was so fucking hot at this time that it's like that's all people wanted to see. Like they just wanted to see these Steve Austin style matches.
It's interesting, right? Because I think if I was going to be dismissive, I could frame it as smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
But it isn't. This particular match doesn't feel like that. Do you get what I'm saying, Drew? Like, it's like, it is smoke and mirrors because you're doing all this other wacky shit to, like, kind of add this sort of depth and gravity to it. But I think the important thing about this match is the actual content of the match is so strong, you know? It's not like they're doing a whole lot of nothing and then they're doing all this bullshit at the end. It is... They're switched on, man, start to finish. Austin takes some incredible bumps. Foley, obviously, is Foley. Like, it's really cohesive and logical. And then you get the, like, soap opera is probably the wrong term, but you know what I'm saying, right? That kind of, that ridiculous extended, then this this guy slips on a banana peel. Patterson, obviously, and Briscoe add to that element of it. Like, he's comedic in itself, right? Whiskey Dick says, the rest of the Austin main events in 98 had all these wacky steps and convoluted storylines. Undertaker and Kane double pin in the summer, for example. See, I've seen that.
Yeah.
And I've also seen the SummerSlam match here with Taker, which is like, it's cool, right? It's not a particularly great match, but I think Austin got concussed or something. But yeah, I get that. I understand it. This is pretty great.
Yeah, they've talked about that match a bunch. That like Austin, you know, Taker does the kneel down on the back body drop. Austin kicks him up, and Taker's head pops up and catches Austin in the jaw and knocks him out off of that. Yeah, the double pin gimmick happened, and then, you know, Survivor Series with the way Rock wins the title and stuff. Like, it was a lot of like convoluted shit that, like, if you look back at it now, you'd be like, none of this shit makes any sense. Mm-hmm. But like, it certainly worked. It certainly worked, and now I almost think like it's clearly a detriment to the product now, because they're kind of doing like the same, like, again, when you watch this stuff weekly back then, a lot of it just it's kind of insulting, and you know, but people loved it back then, and now like a lot of it's still insulting and it's not as loved as much.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if so when I see stuff like this, I think about the last year Extreme Rules, that finish they did for Banks and Asuka. You know, it was really convoluted and everyone hated it, right? And I wonder if the people dislike the fact it's convoluted, or they dislike that it isn't good shit. Yeah. I wonder if this is a case of, like, was Pat Patterson the guy who could just walk that line? Because it feels like this is a Patterson deal, right? Everyone says he's the guy who did these big matches. Like, was he just the one that could piece these things together? They were ridiculous and over the top, but they actually fit, rather than making you go, oh, or is it a case of, as you just said, Jeremy, like, people got kind of, they'd seen it. I'm not sure which is probably more likely.
I think that it may have been a Patterson thing. It also, like I Am Crackerjack says, just proves how much you can get away with when you have a no doubt number one baby face. And like that's certainly true too, is like, all right, Austin might have been in like some convoluted bullshit on pay-per-view where he got screwed out of the title and whatnot, and like the whole higher power stuff, like none of that stuff like made sense and stuff, but like they'd make Austin look stupid every single week on television by like having him lose and like distraction finishes, or, you know, having him say dumb shit and just making him look like a goof and whatnot. Like, so that doesn't help either. It's like you can probably get away with this stuff now if like you actually, like, you don't insult the intelligence on weekly television, because that's what they do now, is like, okay, you're doing the same match over and over again on weekly TV, and you're also making you're making Drew look dumb every week. Mm-hmm. Like they certainly weren't doing that to Austin.
I also think it's an interesting, it tells you a lot about the time and like the audience, right? This audience is very much, the majority of them are people that their fandom is hinged to and rooted into that era they're watching on right in front of them. Does that make sense? So like the people that are in that crowd, for the most part, obviously I can't prove this is a guess. I feel like if you said to them, who's your favourite WWF, what's your favourite WWF stuff, they would say the stuff that's on TV now. Whereas now, if you go to a WWE show and ask people what their favourite WWF stuff, they'll go, well, it used to be good, but here I am. It is a difference, and I think part of it is the audience was very sincere then in its sort of like what will happen next, in a way that you can't have when wrestling's niche. And like, people think this is an internet thing, but I've said this before. We spoke about WCW 92 a moment ago. There are shows there, man, where the crowd is just too smart for that shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're not buying it. Now, when you have a product that's popping the way it was in 1998, that crowd doesn't know or care about any of that shit. They're there to see Austin stunner people. So, like, it's kind of which results in the other. Because if a babyface now, I get the sense people will be like, oh, you know, they're pushing it down our throats. But then you could say, if they had a babyface as strong as Austin, they wouldn't have crowds like that. You know, so it's very difficult to kind of figure out which it is. But it is definitely, this encapsulates as well as anything can, man. It's 1998 at its best. There'll be a whole lot of worse that I'm hoping I'm never going to cover on this thing. But this is the high watermark. I couldn't believe I didn't know about it. I'm seeing the finish, and like when I was watching it, I was like, okay, I remember this being a thing. But I didn't realise it was such a significant one. That was a great shout by the Whiskey Dick, who again I must apologise to because I did not know when he tweeted me that he was in fact the Whiskey Dick.
I still don't know. I assume we follow each other, but I'm not positive.
You're a pretty big star. You don't reply to DM.
Nobody DMs me. I don't get DMs. I just don't. I
have 3 DMs currently.
Really? I have none. I don't want people to DM
I will not read them on the air.
Oh no.
Now, speaking of stuff, I've been on for an hour and a half, Drew. This is filth. I'm sorry. But I do think we should do some distraction choice talk. Okay. Before we wrap things up, before I wrap things up, you know. What an adventure this has already been, my friend. Jeremy texts me on Sunday. He goes, which is yesterday, believe it or not. He goes, you know, distraction select, which then became distraction choice, is a thing. Very, you know, again, bro, like, do what you want to do with it. And I, by like 3 hours later, had posted 2 things. One of which was like a sort of reaching out for help as to how I waste my weekends. And the second was a thing titled, I am going to become the Fiend. which was well, it was something, Jeremy, as you know. It was wild. When this is done, I'm gonna go and write something.
JJ, that's not the handle. It's just
filth, JJ.
Yeah, it's just patreon.com/thedistraction.
Jeremy, tell the people about what we're doing this thing. It's so, why are we doing it? I don't know, but God, it's going to create some shit content, isn't it? Dude, some absolute horrid stuff.
I don't know why we're doing it. I said we were going to do it as like a joke, like a couple months ago, and people were like, "Oh, I'll sign up for that. Like, I'll do it." And I wanted to do it on the Fightful Select tier for $1, and that wouldn't have worked out too well. But it's just a joke, and then I just thought, like, all right, I'll do it if people wanna support it. Like, there's no tiers or anything. You can pay whatever you want. If you just want to give us $1, that's completely acceptable. You can pay whatever you want. Like, we make it very clear on there. It's like, hey, I don't actually know quite what this is gonna entail. We're gonna just do some different stuff. Like, we'll provide content. I think people who know us know, like, we produce content, right? Like, if you're paying $1, you're definitely gonna get your money's worth out of it. It's not like you're gonna be like, hey, I'm paying and you guys aren't posting anything. Like, we'll definitely post some shit. Again, it might just be shit, but we'll post some shit. But really, I just wanted to do it as like just bits and like distraction scoops. Like, I'm filming a paid ad tomorrow that's gonna run on the List and Your Boy, and like tomorrow I'll post like my outfit from the paid ad so people can see that a day early. Like, it's just really dumb distraction stuff. If you watch our show, you know it's pretty stupid. So it's just really dumb stuff like that. But then I gave it to you, and I was like, post whatever you want. I didn't think you were going to use it as your own personal blog, but like, I'm not mad at it either, because I mean, one, it's good content, and two, like, I don't know, it seems like you're having fun with it and stuff, because you can, like, when you got a you know, when you have to write like a Fightful article or for the magazine or something, that's got to be like real professional and done up and shit. Like you can't say certain things and whatnot. Like on here, it's like whatever. It can just be like a train of thought type gimmick. You can just write whatever you want and that can be that. So like I'm all for it. I'll probably start doing some of that stuff too. I said I was gonna do an NXT blog of just saying like match is good. Cameron Grimes, cool. Karrion Kross. What's his deal? It's gonna be a Robert O'Neill esque NXT blog, but yeah, we'll have content. I want to do a podcast with our buddy Chris, who 90 Day Fiance stuff. Like we'll probably do some like non-wrestling stuff like that, like different kind of podcasts and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's like this is a way where you can support us and just the different content that we provide, much like the Twitch gimmick. Like I try to promote on Twitch, like, hey, this not only helps fund the video content that we do here on Twitch, it helps like, we do the main show every week. I do a bunch of news articles. Joseph does features for the magazines and stuff. Like, it helps pay for that stuff too. So if you just like enjoy the dumb shit that we do, there's just another way where you can support us on that, and we don't have to give any of this to Fightful. Like this goes directly to us. Like the Twitch gimmick, we got to pay. Like Fightful gets part of that. The super chats and stuff on the distraction, like Fightful gets all of that. I'm paid well for my news writing stuff. I always think I'm underpaid because I do a lot. But like this goes directly to us. So honestly, like this is the best and direct way to support everything Joseph and I do.
It's pretty cool. It was, in all seriousness, it was very nice. Up for a day, and we already had a good amount of people giving us a good amount of money, and I do really appreciate it. We are, in fact, dipshits, Jeremy, you and I, but we are trying our best to entertain people. It's been a bizarre year to start a professional wrestling podcast, but normality is apparently on its way back. It's weird to think we only covered like 2 full months of normal professional wrestling time. That's very odd to me.
Yes.
We ended up doing a daily show, which I think led us to this thing that we're on now. It's wild, man. I don't know. It's crazy to think like maybe 15 months ago, the idea of doing a live show, when I pitched to Jeremy for the trade deadline, I was like, that's a one-off at best, right? And now we're like live every other day. It's a weird one, but I do appreciate it, especially on shows like this that are as self-indulgent as this was. We're consistent viewership, which I do appreciate. As I've said consistently, if you have a match suggestion, DM it to me. If I won't know immediately, it's your like Twitch thing. Like send me like a screenshot of your subscription or however that works. I don't know how Twitch works, but I'll know it down, man. I've got like 4 cards locked in already, so it may be a while because we have pay-per-views to cover too. But I'll cover it at some juncture. I appreciate all the suggestions. They've been very, very, very cool. Yeah, man, this was fun, Jeremy Lambert. This was very fun.
We'll be back on Twitch tomorrow at 3. No idea what we're doing. Do you want to do a watch along, Joseph?
Sure.
I don't know. What
easy for me, bro. I was spoken up on this show for a lifetime. I'd happily sit on a watch along quietly tomorrow.
Anyway, it's not going to be like a full event, but like any match, and I realize Joseph just reviewed 5 matches, but
Fair.
Any match that like you guys would just want to watch tomorrow, and we'll watch it. We'll talk about it, kind of like the Austin Rock thing we did, which I think was really fun. Anything that you guys potentially want to watch tomorrow and talk about with us? Oh my God, Riley Walker says Hogan Warrior from Havoc 98.
Here we go. Now we're cooking, right. Now let me tell you something, Jeremy. We'll do this on the air because the people like when we do our production meetings. One of my inspirations for the show, and this may go over everyone's head in the chat, is Red Letter Media, who do film reviews. Okay, and I love their content. They're the greatest, and I steal a lot of stuff. So I'm going to do that more here, Jeremy. They have a famous series called Best of the Worst, in which they take 4 historically shitty films, rewatch them all, critique them all, and then decide which is the best of those 4, right? I have a pitch for you, Jeremy Lambert.
Okay.
I'm talking a series titled The Finest Filth. Okay?
All right.
In which we take the lowest rated matches on maybe Cage Match or by our Uncle Dave, and like in some format, and I do not know how we're going to do this, folks, I do not know, but this is my idea. We like work our way through these, you know? Like, so say tomorrow we had like Havoc 98, take that one as an example, or Kirby says Taker and Giant Gonzalez wrestling. This feels like something we could have a lot of fun with.
Yes. Today. I'm legitimately for this. Like, just watching, I mean, this was sort of what we did when we just picked matches to review. Like, most of the time we were picking bad matches. Now, like, to actually just watch them and, you know, put them on screen and stuff and talk about them, I'm completely fine with this. Do you want to start this tomorrow?
I mean, I feel like we kind of have to now. Someone suggested Hogan and Warrior. Our first two should probably be Hogan Warrior, Havoc 98, Taker Giant Gonzalez, and we'll decide which is the better of those two matches. I think is what we should do.
Okay.
I mean, that would probably be, how long are those matches?
How long are they? Oh, they can't be that long.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I mean, they're too long, but yeah, they can't be that long.
Halloween, I'll look it up. Halloween Havoc 1998 is, can't spell. Whatever. It knows what I'm talking about. Hogan Warriors 14 minutes. And then what Mania was 9? Gonzalez and Taker?
Yes, I believe so. You're correct, I'm correct, Jay. Ideally it would have some randomness to it. I haven't figured out the format yet, but you know, the finest filth.
That match was 7 minutes. So yeah, we're looking at a grand total of like 21 minutes to watch these matches.
Well, basically tomorrow we'll be doing some sort of shoot of bad wrestling matches.
Yeah.
I don't know much more than that yet. They're probably going to just watch those two matches, but like we'll figure out the format, right? We'll try and play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alicia Fox and Melina, SummerSlam. I'm not doing that. I don't want to get in trouble.
Do the SummerSlam
I'm not getting in
Taker
trouble.
Gonzalez match? What year was that?
I have no idea.
93, I would assume? 98? 93?
Yeah, probably.
Because they would have rematched, I would assume.
Yeah, it's 93.
That might. Oh, a Rest in Peace match. That was 8 minutes. I mean, we can do all three.
Let's do it.
We'll see which is the worst of the three, or the best of the three, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and best can be just the most entertaining in its sort of filth, you know?
Yeah.
That can be a thing. It's probably going to have to be a thing, Dream, if we're being honest, because none of them are going to be good, are they? That's sort of the idea.
It's not going to be a thing of like, oh yeah, this was the most technically sound match. It's going to be a thing of, all right, which is the most enjoyable and how garbage it actually was. All right, we'll watch these three matches tomorrow on air, and then we will pick our favorite of the three.
Now, my concern is, Jeremy Lambert, did we not discover that the cock makes it hard to do this?
Yes, the cock makes it extremely difficult. I'm going to have to find these matches on the Daily Motion or just some type of gimmick. I'm pretty sure I can find it. This stuff gets uploaded, even if it's like a full event type deal, even if I got to download through clearly legal means, but like that, or like if I use your network login or something, we'll figure it out.
Okay, well that'll probably be tomorrow then. Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Thursday is the usual. Apparently we're going to talk about wrestling again.
Thursday we got to preview WrestleMania Backlash, and we will also talk about Miro winning the TNT title.
AEW looks very good this week.
AEW does look very good, but we're not AEW
I assume
fans.
we're going to just... No, we're not. No. But I assume we're going to talk about that the whole time while people in the chat ask about WrestleMania Backlash.
We'll talk about WrestleMania Backlash.
Will we?
Yeah, I mean, even if it's like brief, like what's O'Neal going to talk about? Won't Corner 3 just be a Backlash preview?
Why did he show up last week not knowing? Like, what was happening? Didn't I stress many times, Jeremy, he was doing a segment on last week's show? He was like, I didn't prepare. It's like, well, I mean, I told you a week ago, Bob, that you're on the show. I don't know what you're doing here.
O'Neal doesn't listen. I think the Corner 3 this week should be the Backlash preview. Okay? Let's That's our whole Backlash
We're not gonna
preview.
do it.
No, we're not gonna do it. O'Neill's gonna do it.
Honestly, I poke fun, but like, it actually looks pretty good. I think, like, it's being serious. Cesaro and Roman.
Yeah, that's good.
Bailey and Belair is like, it's kind of shitty the way that it's come about.
See,
but like,
I think
it's a cool match.
I think like the matches will be good because like WWE pay-per-views have been good from a match quality standpoint, pretty much like the entire pandemic era, right? Like they've had some good pay-per-views from a match quality standpoint. The problem is like just getting there has always sucked, and
Yes.
the follow-up has always sucked. But it'll be a good show, match quality wise.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the triple threat stuff is kind of scares me because.
But we know what those are going to be. It's going to be, one person gets knocked out of the ring and you do their singles match and then it comes back in. They do the singles match. Their format sucks.
Yeah, I agree. But I will say that I have to talk about Backlash because the Dirty Dogs are wrestling. Sorry, Dogs are wrestling Ray Jr. and Dominic Jr.
Sean does a good dogs.
He does?
Dog. Yeah. I asked him on the SmackDown show. I was like, do you know how to say it, Sean? Sean's like, Dirty Dogs. Like that Kentucky accent hits. Yeah. Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
It's really hard for me as a Brit. Dog. It feels like I'm doing sort of Bully Ray.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to do.
No, never go Bully Ray.
I say as I sit in an Eddie Kingston shirt. No, non-New York man, Eddie Kingston. Definitely not comparable to the Bully Ray. Okay, so I think we've run through the schedule, right? So we know what we're doing. Boom, boom, boom. Next Monday, for folks that have suggested matches and feel I've forgotten them, I have not. But next Monday, we have 2 pay-per-views to review. Yes. 2 pay-per-views Jeremy will see, but he has told me he's unsure he'll remember anything about either of them, which I do appreciate the warning in that regard. It's very fun. But we will be reviewing Under Siege and the WrestleMania Backlash next Monday. So, hell of a lot coming up, man. I reckon within the next hour and a half, I'm going to post that on Patreon. I don't know what about. For sure, tell me if you want to see something. I don't know.
I might want to review Raw on Patreon. I think I'm gonna clickbait a title and just put like Jeremy's Raw review, and then it just says didn't watch.
Yeah, I couldn't add anything to that. I'd have to also say didn't watch, unfortunately. It's actually amazing. I know that we said we were going to wrap up 25 minutes ago, but I got to say, Whiskey Dick, the second pape, is Under Siege by the Impact Wrestling folks. Actually, a special, they call it in the industry, but I like Impact shows, so I'm going to review that. So, we said we're going to wrap up, but I have to say, what was we just talking about? Shit. What was we talking about, Jeremy? Remember we did a
Raw review, I thought.
Yes, thank you. I genuinely cannot stress enough to you how, much my mind has moved on from my time watching that show. I don't even think about it at this point. Even SmackDown, something happened on SmackDown with Jimmy Uso that I want to watch, and I've just not got around to it because, why would I? It's weird, man. Once you get out of rhythm...
Oh, I like this deal by Anna Karana. Review Raw beforehand with your legit prediction of how the show goes. I can do that. I'll post that here in a second. I am about to listen to this Booker T podcast to hear his comments on the biography.
I can't believe Annie didn't tackle the truths about, I'm waiting for, after 6 episodes, I think they would finally dig deep into this stuff. But apparently not.
It's clear that people they stopped watching these A&E biographies a long time ago, because this is how every single one of them throughout history have been.
Yeah.
And then we're talking wrestling here. What do you expect?
It's one of those things where it's I don't want to stop people from being critical when it's fair, but at some point you're doing this to yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? You still think they're going to tackle this stuff. Oh man, I mentioned a Triple H being racist to Booker T. Oh wow, shocked. Can't believe it. Of course, guys, come on.
See, that's the main reason I'm going to listen to this podcast, is because apparently there was stuff filmed for that segment. According to one person who I'm not even sure if he was in the biography at all. And so I don't know how truthful this is. So I want to see if Booker himself comments on it. The other stuff, what's he really going to say? I don't know how much he's going to say. I don't even know if he's going to say anything about the Triple H stuff, because he's one of those dudes that's just he just defends all that shit,
Yeah, it's one of them things where I don't think less of him for it, but I do. It does make me ignore his opinions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I get it, I understand it. They pay him well to be like WWE man, but at the same time, come on, bro. Like, I'm not tuning in to listen to that dude talk about anything because I know where it's based. Like that thing he did recently where he was like defending Impact's honor, and it's like, bro, you like stole a living from Impact. You're like the ultimate WWF guy that didn't give a shit about TNA Impact when you went there. Like they paid him a lot of money to do nothing good. Like he did not care at all about that product, and now he's suddenly like, well, Tony Khan's he's fleecing him. No, you fleeced him, Book. You sold about $1 million from him. You're terrible there.
Booker said that like Impact had him do a commercial, and he got like $250,000 off of this commercial that like never aired or some shit. Just
that does roll.
I mean, look, if Impact's gonna like throw this money out there, like you know, I don't begrudge the dude for taking it, but I'm with you. Like any of his takes, like they don't come from a great place. Like
yes,
even his WWE stuff where he's like talking about Bianca and Sasha and stuff, like it's just bad.
The thing is though, it's like I do want to stress, you're right. The people that actually worked hard in TNA are the real marks.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle doing moonsaults off the cage.
Dude, I told you Nash was the best worker in that cage match. He was getting paid the most money. He wasn't bumping around for that bullshit.
Man, what a guy. I saw his little clip on that documentary.
Yeah. It's like, I got paid a lot of money to sit home at 14 months.
Amazing stuff. I mean, it's fair. It amazes me they don't get why guys did that, right? Like, wow, people actually treat this as a job. What dogs? Like, no, that's very logical that they would just stay home and get paid. Dude. Whiskey Dick says, did you guys watch The Untold about two dudes with attitudes? Jesus, wept. Of course I did. Every time that thing shows up on the front of my network, I want to smash the television set.
No. I kind of want to watch it for, like, the Nash comments, but I feel like most of the good ones have already been clipped and stuff, so it's like, what's he gonna add to it? But like, I don't care what Sean has to say about that shit, and I don't care, you know, who else has to say stuff. Is Waltman in it? Waltman's very level-headed when it comes to that stuff. Like, how much of a presence does Waltman have?
I mean, he should be in it quite a bit, right? He's one of the Click guys.
Yeah, because like
should be.
I've watched the Click documentary, and like. You know, it is what it is with those guys. But, like, Waltman comes off very good in that documentary of just being, like, owning up to a lot of shit. Just be like, yeah, dude, like, we fucking sucked. We were complete dicks to everybody. Like, this shit wouldn't fly now. Like, and his podcast is good, too. Like, Waltman's a guy who I actually respect and like his takes. Waltman.
I do like the Nash whiskey, but I'm not, you know, I don't like him enough to tolerate an hour of Shawn Michaels sort of, you know, and then someone will come in and they'll go, well, he could have had a 4-star match with a broomstick, and I'll sit there on my own and go, he didn't have a 4-star match with Kurt Hennig. You know, and then I start shouting at myself, and there's no need for this. I don't need to get mad like that, you know. They're not the Kim Wood type of good, bro. He was cooking. Shit.
I still gotta watch the Pillman.
Jeremy. This is special. This performance this man put in was special.
See, the EP wants to watch it, so I'm waiting to watch it with her. But I want to watch it. I like Dark Side. The Gage episode is Thursday. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, that's gonna be really good. People are gonna think a certain way about him, and then by the end of the episode, be like, "Oh, that's why guys like him." Okay,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
really misread him. Like, you know, did some shit. It is what it is. But, like, they'll come out of it really liking him. He's awesome.
Yeah. And all the wrestlers like Gage.
Yeah, no, but some people are dogs.
Yeah.
Gage Jones, bro. He's like
fucking king of this shit.
He's just he's so ridiculous in the best way. Like, he's ridiculous in the sense that you can only take him seriously because he is very, very serious about what he's doing. You know, like, you can't mess with it. He's very real in that regard.
He's the king of this pro wrestling shit, Joseph.
He sure is, man. He sure is. I mean, what that means at this point, no clue. But he's the king. By the way, I've been watching Legends House on the WWF Network.
Oh God.
No clue why no one has alerted me to this being the best program on that whole thing. It is insane, dude. Have you seen this show?
Dude, I reviewed this show when it first came out. Yes.
Oh, shit. When? What website?
411. Yeah.
Oh, my.
I'd assume they're still up. Yeah, I reviewed the Legends House. I don't remember if I liked it back then. I feel like I don't know. I don't know if I liked it.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
Like Piper is like just doing a wrestling show, but then like Fink is like the nicest guy ever, bless him. And Gene is, you can never quite figure out if Gene is like, he's such a caricature of himself that his insults are delivered in the same way he'd deliver like an opening line of an interview. You know, he's incredible. It's a wild show, man. I can see why a television channel didn't pick it up, because the story with that show is that it was like shot at the same time they did Total Divas 1.
Yeah.
And they sold Total Diva, and that led to like 15 seasons, and this was just one weird outlier where all these poor old dudes shout at each other for 10 episodes. It's wild. Shawn Michaels showed up in the last episode, actually, so
Did he?
I've watched enough. Yes, I've
this
watched enough Shawn this week,
all.
yes. Yeah, he shows up and he takes them fishing, and, you know, Pat Patterson just at one point started crying because he's talking to Shawn Michaels, which fair. Very fair. I too would do that for different reasons, but I too would do that. It's tremendous stuff. But yes, there you go. Folks, this is half an hour after we said we're going to finish, but we are now finishing, I think.
I mean, that was our gimmick on the A show. Like, we're going to wrap it up here, and then we just kept talking.
Do you remember the take a bit?
Oh, yeah, the Taker bit? Oh, man, that was classic. That was very classic.
Legitimately like 25-minute bit.
Yeah.
Just extraordinary stuff.
All right, everybody. Let's see who we can raid here. We will raid. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Queen of the Ring's on. We'll raid her. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Again, we'll be back tomorrow at 3. We're just going to watch some bad wrestling matches. You got to tune in for the live show because there will be no video on demand for that. It will not be on Fightful Scraps or anything because we'll have copyrighted content. So can't keep that up. So yes, we're gonna raid Alex, Queen of the Ring. Everyone say hi to her. It doesn't look like she's fully started. Maybe that's but it seems like she'll be on shortly. So everyone go say hi. Appreciate everyone.
See you folks on Patreon, folks. See you there. I'll be posting very soon.
Yes, go on Patreon. I'm going to try to get my Raw preview up before the show starts. No promises. I don't know. I got this Booker T stuff to listen to. Talk to y'all later on.